for 15 years. Wayfinders is a wonderful organization based in Springfield, and they have been working on finding housing, facilitating access to housing for people in the Pioneer Valley for a long time. The Home Ownership and Financial Education Department educates more than 1,000 people each year on the ins and outs of home ownership and of financial education. Araceli is a bilingual certified HUD counselor, and she has been working with the Home Modification Loan Program for 5 years. She is also being joined by Amneris Moreno, who is also very involved in the Home Modification Loan Program through Wayfinders, and they may be tag teaming in terms of fielding questions from us when we get to that point of the presentation. So thank you, Araceli and Amneris, for agreeing to spend time with us, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you. I want to thank Amherst Neighbors and Sue for having us here to discuss the home ownership. There's someone not on mute and it's echoing. The phone number. Oh, thank you. I hope everyone can hear better now. All right, so let's share my screen. Is everybody able to see my screen, Sue? Can you see my screen? Okay, perfect. So again, welcome. My name, as Sue mentioned, my name is Araceli Rivera. I'm the Homeownership and Financial Education Manager here at Wayfinders. Amneris Moreno is the Homeownership Lending Advisor, and she works closely with the Homeownership Department. Here's our contact information. You will also have a copy of the slides, so don't feel like you have to jot it down right now. You will get this information as well. All right, so who are we? Who's Wayfinders? So Wayfinders' mission is to light pathways and open doors to homes and communities where people thrive. Wayfinders confronts homeless head-on in communities throughout Mass, including Hampton and Hampshire counties. We have developed services that help people lift themselves up from homelessness with our housing, real estate development, employment support, and community services. Just a little background on us. So today we're going to be talking about the Home Modification Loan Program. It's a program from the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, MRC, and it's also in collaboration with the Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation, which we refer to CDAC. All right, so we're going to review today, review HMLP, eligible improvements, project timeline, the role of a construction monitor, which is an inspector that goes out to do an inspection of the property, completing a bid, processing disbursements, and disputes resolution process. I do speak fast. I know the information, so it's kind of second nature to me. I'll try to slow down a little bit. So home modification. If anybody wanted to go onto the state's website, here's the website. If you wanted to do a little research or a little reading, so here it's here. It's also, like I said, it's made available. So what's the role of Wayfinders with the home modification? We're the provider agency that provides assistance in the application process. So applications come to Wayfinders. We review, we look at the income. We also review the bid, because we need to have an estimate of the work that's going to be done to make sure that it is within program guidelines. So MRC is the funding source, and CDAC administers the HMLP on the behalf of MRC. So what is the HMLP? So it's for homeowners who are income eligible, may borrow up to $5,000 inclusive of all costs on a no interest deferred payment loan. So it's a loan, and I do want to make that clear. It is a loan, but there's no interest on it. It is paid back when there is a sale of the home or a transfer of title is when it's paid back. Sometimes at refinance, it may need to be paid back if it doesn't conform to the requirements of the subordination, but there's no interest on it. You sell the home, that's when you pay it back. You transfer the title, that's when it would be paid back. Borrowers can borrow up to $50,000 for mobile homes. We can go up to $30,000. So Modifications can be the difference between keeping a disabled or an elderly family member at home opposed to relocating to a health care facility. So what that means is it could be for modifications to be able to age in place, to be able to stay at home opposed to having to live in a care facility. Let's see. So Wayfinders, we cover, these are the towns and the communities that we cover. We cover Agawam, Amherst, Chicopee, Holyoke, Northampton, Springfield, South Hadley, West Springfield, and Westfield. Pioneer Valley Planning Commission covers the rest of Hampton County and Hampshire County. If anyone knew anyone interested, here is Shirley's information. Hit the screen, sorry. Shirley Stevens processes the home modification over at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So,
Araceli,
yes.
excuse me, I just wanted to clarify. You said $5,000, but the slide said a maximum of $50,000.
I'm sorry. It is $50,000.
Okay.
Homeowners do not have to borrow the whole 50. It could be 10,000, it could be 20, it could be 25. So it goes up to 50,000, but you don't have to use the whole limit. And one of the things is, as we know, things change occasionally. So let's say there was a project that was 25,000. It gets approved, the homeowner does the work with the contractor, it gets closed. Let's say in a year or two, something happens and they need additional work. Something else needs to be done now. They can come back for that additional 25,000. So if the limit is 50, but you don't have to use it all at once. So here are the income limits. I'm sorry, I just noticed if there's a mistake, it says 2017. These are the current income guidelines. So a homeowner of one person is 188,000. So they're pretty high. And again, these are 0% deferred loans. It's up to 200 of the area median income. So here are the guidelines for the income. So what types of modifications are approved? Modifications have to be supported with a need for the modification. So there's a documentation for need of professional form. This is usually completed by a doctor, a therapist, someone that's knows what the mobility issues is of an individual to say, yes, this individual does need a stair lift, they have mobility issues. This individual could benefit from an accessible bathroom. So that has to come with the application. It is a form that's part of the application. It's not a home repair program, so it can't cover a roof, a septic system, heating. The modifications have to be to meet the beneficiary's ability to function on a daily basis. So kitchens are not funded. So, general home repairs for kitchens, those are not funded, but cabinets or countertops can be lowered to be able to meet the individual's needs. Appliances can only be replaced if you're modifying the height or altering the function of the appliances. So, if you're doing something that requires that can be done. But generally, a new kitchen isn't going to be done if there's no need documented. Okay, so HMLP does not fund floors or remodels, general home repairs, but for a homeowner in a wheelchair, it may require hardwood floors that would cover. For an individual that has chronic asthma, has rugs, that could be covered as well. For individuals who have mobility issues and their floor may be uneven, there's different rises, that could be covered as well. Washer dryer units. So HMLP does not fund laundry room remodels or general repairs, but if, for instance, if you're a homeowner and your washer and dryer may be in the basement and you have some mobility issues coming up and down the stairs, that can be done. Relocating the washer and dryer upstairs can be done. We can also, the homeowner, if they need the side-by-side, things of that nature can be done. Front loading, if they have limited mobility, that can be done as well. So sensory windows, window replacements are not typically covered A sensory window may be eligible modification if a client has a medical need such as post-traumatic stress disorder that is triggered by noise outside. And I've actually worked with a client who needed special fencing for their service animal. That project was done because the service animal, the service animal knew how to function, do certain things if the homeowner was in distress. So things of that nature, even though the fencing wasn't for the homeowner, it was for their service animal, that could be covered because of that medical need. So the modification must be recommended by a professional licensed to diagnose or treat the medical condition on that appropriate form. So the window must block the noise. So in this instance, they're not gonna fund windows if they're just decorative. It has to have that sensory for that need. So generators may be approved if a homeowner has a life-sustaining equipment that requires electricity to function at all times. Generators will not be approved for any other reason or function. So if homeowners have equipment that needs to be powered, that could be covered as well. Air conditioners may be approved if the house has poor air quality. For example, poor air quality causes breathing impairment for the following medical conditions: COPD, asthma, cancer, other chronic breathing conditions or disorders. So decks. This one is it's a little hard because here it says HMLP does not fund decks or remodels, but it does. If a homeowner needs a wheelchair ramp, that deck would be covered, but it can't exceed a 4x8. So there must be a medical need for the larger deck to be approved. So it also would cover awnings. Typically, if you have a homeowner who just installed a ramp and they're getting wet when they're coming in, that's a slip hazard. So sometimes awnings will be permitted, and sometimes when individuals submit an application, if we, the provider agency, myself or Amneris, if we can really determine, yes, what they're requesting, what's being requested really meets this need, we'll advocate, because sometimes things are not, things are black and white, and you need to go that extra step to just really advocate for the homeowner. HMLP does not fund ramps if HMLP does fund ramps if there is a medical necessity. So ramps typically are covered. So HMLP does not fund fences for remodels or repairs. The fence may be replaced or built if there's a medical necessity. We've also worked with homeowners who have children with autism or autistic children, and they need special fencing. That could be funded as well. Sensory room could be funded. A sensory room is the special room designed to develop a person's sense, usually through special lighting, music, and objects. It can be used as a therapy for children with limited communication skills. So I think this is awesome, right? As parents, we want to do everything we can for our kids, and this is great to be able to fund a sensory room for children with special needs. Stair lifts can be funded through this program. Here's some pictures. So HMLP will also fund platform lifts if there's a medical necessity. So we typically don't see many platform lifts, but once in a while we will get a request for that. So an in-law addition can be funded through the home modification loan program. So if anyone had any questions regarding in-law additions, you can feel free to reach out to Amneris. We've also done, Amneris, help me, what's the name of those modular homes?
AUDs.
Yes, we funded AUDs for homeowners and for children, homeowners' children's. Okay, so walkways.
ADU, they are accessory dwelling units.
Sorry.
Yes.
ADU, yep.
So walkways and driveways can also be funded by HMLP if the homeowner does not have clear access to the entrance. Also, if a homeowner is in a wheelchair, or they have someone living with them in a wheelchair, and sometimes the driveway could be cracked crumbling, that could be covered to make sure that the homeowner or the individual with the need isn't slipping and falling. So any questions? Amneris is the go-to person. So HMLP will cover accessible bathrooms, not general home repairs as is stated here, but modifications to bathrooms for individuals to be able to safely get in and out of the shower. So here are some pictures of some bathrooms that HMLP has funded. Here's one of the bathroom seats. Walk-in shower, walk-in shower. So as I mentioned, typically if we see a request for a home repair such as a roof, molds, siding, windows, but it's just general repairs, we do try to assist that caller, that applicant, look for other sources of assistance that we might not offer or that we can't fund under the HMLP. Some towns and some cities do have some assistance, but typically we direct homeowners to call Shirley Stevens at Pioneer Valley. Her phone number is here, or they can call their town hall or city hall. Sometimes there is, funding through the cities or the towns that they may have that it's not available to us. So application. So once you have an application and it's complete, what happens is we have a completed application, we review the application, the income, the professional need, and the bid to ensure that everything aligns. These are typical things we'll need for the application is a copy of the deed to ensure that the homeowner is agreeing to this loan, because the loan gets attached to your deed. So there is a mortgage that's recorded at the Registry of Deeds in lieu of the loan. And we want to make sure that the homeowner who's on the deed is agreeing. Income documents, because you could be a homeowner and you could be doing it for a family member who lives with you. It doesn't have the medical modifications do not have to be for the homeowner. It could be for someone living there. It could also cover landlords who want to do it for their tenants. So income documents we'll need the bid to assure that the work being done does fall within the guidelines. In the documentation of professional needs. There's some other documentation required. It's listed on the application. So once we have that completed bid, we will send it for a construction monitor. The construction monitor goes out to the property, does an inspection before the start of any project and before funding. And then at the end, once the project has been funded and the project is 100% complete, the construction monitor goes out to ensure that it has been completed, that the homeowner is satisfied, and will finish payments on that. So start selecting a contractor. Homeowners select their chosen contractor. We do not influence or we do not select contractors. This decision is the homeowners. We'll verify that they have the appropriate licenses, the contractor supervisor license, the lead license, the homeowner's improvement license, because we want to make sure that they have appropriate license to work on your property. And a contractor must provide a copy of their liability insurance, because we want to assure if something were to happen, it's not on you, that you as the homeowner, that you are covered.
Araceli?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions before we go further about the income eligibility. Is that based strictly on annual income? What about savings? Is there a threshold on personal savings as opposed to income?
At this moment, there's none on savings. Guidelines change, but not at this moment.
And what about whose income is evaluated? The homeowner, the individual with the need, both if they're different people, the household as a group?
It is household income.
Okay.
Household income.
And then one more question before we go further. Can a permitted accessory dwelling unit be rented out to a non-related person for the rental income? Sometimes that income can make the difference between the owner staying in the rest of the house versus having to move to a skilled nursing facility or another type of dwelling.
Unfortunately not. If you rent the unit, you now become a landlord, and there is an interest on that.
Okay, thank you.
And to make the modifications, that person there has to be able to benefit from it. So we can't make the modifications and just rent it out.
Thank you.
All right, so what we look for in the bid, a completed bid, sometimes the bid is the biggest hurdle. And it's because we want to make sure that the math adds up. You know, that if something it costs 100, it's not saying a subtotal of 400. So we do look for that. We want to make sure that things do add up, that the bid is detailed with description. You know, we want to make sure that if it's a ramp and a bathroom, that the bid says the bathroom and the ramp. If it just says the ramp, how do we know that they're doing the bid, right? I mean, they're doing the bathroom. If it's not on the bid, you know, if something were to happen and there has to be a dispute against this contractor, it has to be in writing what they're going to do. So acceptable bids must include a detailed description of the project, include the details regarding the materials, the prices, the warranties. We want to see it all. We have to indicate permits because we want to make sure that they're pulling the appropriate permits to make sure that the homeowner is secure. If something were to happen, that they have, you know, a permit secures them being able to go after the contractor if something were to go wrong. We also want to see a payment schedule, so detailed to make sure that the first payment is 1/3 of the cost, that things fall into place. We disperse the funds if the homeowner is satisfied with the work, and the homeowner is the one that assures giving the check to the contractor. We don't ever want to give a contractor 90% of the funds because he says to the homeowner, I'll come back, just pay me now, and they don't come back. So we want to assure those things. We want to assure that step by step, they have done the work in order for us to release the payment. And it's only to make sure everything goes into place, that, you know, 90% of the funds haven't gone out and only 50% of work has been done, and now the contractor's MIA. So that's why there's a payment schedule, and the homeowner really has to assure that the work is done to date and to their satisfaction. So what happens if the project has been approved and now there's a change that needs to be done? The contractor is doing a bathroom modification, opens up the wall, may find something there that needs to be brought up to code. Maybe it's electrical. That can be included as long as there's a change order. We want to make sure step by step that we're documenting what's happening to be able to make sure that the funds are there, and that there's no issues with the building code that the contractor did something that was not included. For any change orders, those will go to Amneris. Her contact information is here again. So as I mentioned, it's the responsibility of the homeowner to review the work and make sure that all invoices are approved by them. The construction monitor goes out at the end, but they don't go in between to assure that the work has been done. And that's why it's really the homeowner's responsibility to assure before giving that next payment, the work has been done. And the payment schedule details that, first payment is 1/3 for materials. The second payment should be for XYZ. Third payment for XYZ, and last payment is final, to make sure that everything has passed. In general, funds requested should reflect the cost of materials and the work completed to date. If the homeowner is not sure that a request accurately affects the status project, please ask them to speak to us, right? We can look at the bid and we can really work it out with the homeowner to make sure that they're satisfied with those payments per what the bid says.
Araceli?
Yes.
I have a couple more questions for you that if someone got a home modification loan in the past and didn't exceed the $50,000 maximum, they can apply for a new loan if their needs have changed.
They can apply, but for the remainder. So the example is if they use 25, they can use another 25. They can't use another 50. So it's 50. That 50 is the limit.
Okay.
But if they use 10, they can come back and use additional funds. They just can't surpass that 50,000.
So that's sort of a lifetime
Correct.
maximum. Okay.
Correct.
And
Correct. We have worked with homeowners who received HMLP, a loan amount, sold the home years later, came back because they still needed those new modifications in their new home. So that can be done because the loan has been now paid back in full. But
And does Wayfinders or the Pioneer Valley Planning Authority help the homeowner in finding a contractor?
We do not. We will give you a list of what's on the state's website of licensed contractors, but because this is a loan, we can't, it's a loan. We can't advise or coerce a homeowner into selecting a contractor. That has to be the homeowner's choice.
Sure.
And we will check their licenses. So once that homeowner has selected the contractor, we have the bid, we will verify the licenses. We will do that.
And then if, let's say you have a 94-year-old parent living in another state, can you get a loan for an accessory dwelling unit in order to bring them into proximity so that you can care for them as they require more and more support?
You can. That could be a little trickier. There might be more paperwork involved because we want to assure that, that 94 parent is coming to live there. So those, there has to be medical need, right? The medical doctor has to say this unit needs X, Y, and Z. So it could be a little bit trickier, but it could happen.
Thank you.
Would you
We'll
agree?
follow- Sorry?
Oh, I was asking Amneris if she would agree.
Yes, that individual has to permanently live with the homeowner. And that, like Araceli said, the documentation from the medical professional form has to support the need of why they need to be next to that, to their children, to wherever they're moving into.
Yeah.
So there would be a way to coordinate that so that you could get the thing ready. I mean, if they have the need, they can't come until
So
you have an appropriate space.
Yeah, it's just more work around, more
Okay,
work involved.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So as I was mentioning about making sure that the contractor, is doing the work satisfaction of the homeowner is because CDAC, MRC, nor Wayfinders is involved in the contract. So that contract between homeowner and contractor that's their contractor. The funding comes from Wayfinders and CDAC and MRC, but the contract for the work is between the homeowner and the contractor. That's a legal binding contract. So that's why we want to make sure that we're supporting the homeowner to make sure that nothing goes wrong before they pay that contractor. So like I mentioned, a homeowner can choose to continue working with a contractor at any time or they can stop, right? We would need something in writing. Same thing as a contractor. A contractor can quit a project. We would need something in writing to assure that they're parting ways and the homeowner would have to find a new contractor to either finish the work that's undone or to enter into a new contract. So anything like that should be sent to Amneris in writing because we want to make sure that we're terminating that payment and no future payments. The homeowner is not going to send any future payments to the contractor. Relationships. So these are things to remember. Our relationship is with the client because the client is taking out the funds, it's taking out the loans. Our relationship isn't with the contractor. Our relationship is with the homeowner. The homeowner finds, hires, and pays the contractor. The contractor must communicate with the homeowner directly. So Wayfinders should not have much communication with the contractor. It really should, that piece should happen with the homeowner. And vice versa. Clear communication. A homeowner determines whether or not the work is satisfied. So always making sure that the homeowner is satisfied with the work. Wayfinders cannot fix any work the homeowner finds unsatisfactory. That's why we want to make sure that payment schedules happen. Refer homeowners who wish to change the scope of work to Araceli. So sometimes middle of the project, it could be that a homeowner says, I wanted that stair lift to go to that, the second floor, but now that I see, I really would like a first floor bedroom. in a first floor bathroom. So things like that can be changed. We just have to be, it has to be in writing, it has to be approved. Any questions, any additional questions? Do you want me to read some off, Sue?
I have a question.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
good and you?
Good. I'm Russ Greco. I'm with Village Neighbors. I live in Shutesbury, Mass. So if I understand correctly, there's nothing that you won't fund as long as you can document a need for it.
Correct. Some things that will not be funded is like a roof, right? Because
What if you can document a need for it?
it's a little different because I need a roof, you need a roof, everyone needs a roof. Not everyone needs a stair lift, not everyone needs a handicap accessible bathroom, not everyone needs a ramp. So it's to assist in the ability for the individual to be able to function on a daily basis.
Okay.
But a roof over a ramp that enables you to safely enter and exit your home would be something that would be easy to justify.
Correct.
I mean, even if the roof's leaking and it's impacting the health and well-being of the client, you won't accept that that's roofs are completely off limits.
Correct.
Is that the only thing? that's
No,
completely
those,
off-
inquiries that we receive, those are individuals we try to either connect with the towns, connect with the cities, or connect with other agencies that actually have funding for general home repairs.
Okay, you said that kitchens are off limits, except
They're
for
not.
moving.
They're not. So let's say a homeowner is, there's a homeowner or someone living with the homeowner who's in a wheelchair and cabinets need to be lowered.
Yeah, except for the
Yes,
height.
yes, the height, but also individuals also could have impairments, opening drawers. So sometimes those things need to be modified, like a lazy Susie or, those kind of modifications to be able to open the drawers, close the drawers.
But then you said that with in-law apartments, wouldn't that, you showed a picture of an in-law apartment that had a kitchen in it.
Because you're creating a whole in-law apartment. So let's say, a parent is coming to live with, their children and they still want to feel some independence. So this in-law suite is being created for that need, for that individual to be able to still continue to function.
So they might, for example, Araceli, have dementia and they need to live close by, but they don't have physical limitations
Correct.
that require lower cabinets or so you can justify having the accessory dwelling unit based on
Yeah.
the need to
Yeah.
have a family member.
Yeah.
Or my understanding is it can also apply to adult offspring
Absolutely.
who you want to be able to keep living with
Yeah.
you.
But they need some independence, but they still need daily care.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Can I ask just where do people from Pelham go?
From Pelham, I can pull up, Neris, can you pull up the,
I put it in the
Well,
chat.
the
That's Hampshire
Pioneer-
County.
Yeah,
I put it in the chat. It's Pioneer Valley. Also,
Oh,
all
okay.
communities in Hampshire County and other Hampden counties that we didn't, cities that we don't cover, that goes to Pioneer, Berkshire County, and Franklin County also goes to Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
and we have a flyer that lists, and I'll send it to Sue so she can share. We have a flyer that designates what provider agency, depending on where you live, covers that area, because you may have friends you want to share this with that don't live in Amherst. So we'll send that along so Sue can share that with all.
yeah, the Pioneer Valley is either Wayfinders or the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. planning authority, sorry. I don't know why I want to make them a commission instead of an authority. Probably my own issues with authority, but we'll get into that later. But the information is the same. It's just
Correct.
which agency you submit your application to.
The information for home modification loan program is the same. It doesn't change amongst agencies, but other agencies may have general home repair programs that may cover other things that home modification doesn't cover.
Good to know.
Yes.
And did you say, because somebody asked early on about Franklin County, where like, is it Shutesbury or Leverett? Is that's Franklin County, which is just not far from us, but somebody asked about who covers that.
Yeah, that's Pioneer Valley.
Okay, same group.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my only other question, and you referenced it at the beginning, but if I'm reading you right, it's kind of critical, and that's the Mass Rehab Commission. That's the overarching umbrella agency,
Yes.
and, and every state has a rehabilitation commission or agency that is maybe known more for vocational rehabilitation and those kinds of things, but this is, the root of it is tied to having some kind of a disability or medical condition
Correct.
where functional ability needs to be improved or helped along, and that's what these dollars are intended for.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Now, just a hypothetical, I'm going to throw this out there. Let's say you have a degenerative disease and you know that in 10 years, it's very unlikely that you would be able to function in your home as it currently exists.
Mhm.
With a letter from your neurologist, for example, would you be able to do this to make the modifications so that at the last minute, you're not struggling to be able to stay put?
Absolutely. That's something that could happen. Absolutely.
And
And one of the, and it's hard, sometimes we get inquiries and they say, this is what's going on. Can I be approved? We can't approve or we can't determine eligibility until we have a completed application to make sure everything aligns. But, generally we can tell someone like, these are the things the program could cover. So, but even if it's something that it's, kind of out there that someone doesn't think about, but it's a need, it's a medical need, I suggest put it in, right? We can always advocate, advocate why the homeowner or someone in the home needs that. Why?
terrific.
Are you saying you've got some wiggle room of creativity and ability
We try. Well, like I said, when I had the homeowner who needed special fencing for her service animal, I was like, why? Right? And it's like asking those questions, making sure that it aligns and advocating for that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And the fact that it's interest-free, that's pretty amazing. It sounds like a good program and maybe not enough people are aware of it. Or am I wrong? Are you swamped with applications and over your head? Or?
It varies. I think the pandemic has kind of slowed things down because individuals don't want contractors, subcontractors in their home. But yeah, there's times where we're swamped, we're just swimming with it. But the pandemic, I would say, has had an impact. And contractors are very hard to find. Good contractors are hard to find.
Yes.
So that's another challenge.
Understood.
How long does it generally take for an application to be processed and approved, Araceli?
That depends on how fast the homeowner wants to move that along. I've had an application take 45 days, 30 days, sometimes 6 months, right? Because there's documentation that needs to be collected, making sure that the homeowner is paid to date on their city taxes, on their state taxes. These documents can't appear to me. Someone has to give them to us. And sometimes collecting of the paperwork takes time. It depends on the homeowner, how fast they want to move this process along, really.
Okay. And Amneris is telling us that Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has the same requirements and.
Yeah,
and-
for home modification, all the provider agencies, Pioneer Valley, Franklin, everybody has the same requirements. We report to CDAC, who reports to MRC, so the project has to meet all those qualifications. Other provider agencies may have other programs that may differ than what we have here.
I'm
The
sure
only
there are more questions out there.
I just want to add, because I don't think it was mentioned, if a project is over the 50,000, we have to verify that the homeowner has the additional funds to cover that expense, and that has to be provided and paid for before we distribute any funds.
Thank
Especially
you.
if you're looking into like an accessory dwelling unit, that's going to be over the 50 grand.
Thank you.
That cost needs to be verified as well.
Yes, yes, thank you, Maris, for mentioning that. Very true, if a project is 80,000, we have to verify that the homeowner has the 30,000 additional, because we can't have half a project. The project can't be incomplete. The project has to be fully funded. And it could be funds from other towns, right? There could be a town who has funds for other things, general home repairs, and we could combine it and work together, but any out-of-pocket funds have to be paid for before any HMLP funds are dispersed. And, if this is a lot of information, anytime anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me or contact the nearest, and we'll be happy to walk it through. Yes.
And I will be sending everybody a copy of the slideshow, the application form and the bid form, documents which Araceli sent to me. I just didn't want to overload everybody with this stuff ahead of time.
So before you send that out, let us, I'll send you the flyer that breaks down the towns and who covers what town. I'll send you
Terrific.
that, so you can have that when you send it off.
Terrific. I'll send that out tomorrow morning.
Okay, perfect.
Any more questions? Going once, going twice. Yes, Sharon, you want to unmute yourself? Oh,
I do. Thank you. So I'm inferring that this program is available statewide through different agencies. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if people, for example, if I'm in touch with somebody down in, southeastern Massachusetts, I can direct them to go to the cdac.org
Yes,
website.
yes.
And they
You can,
find out.
yeah, you can absolutely direct them there, and they can find out who's the local provider agency that covers that region. Yeah, they can absolutely do that, because regions sometimes change as well. So, the flyer that I'm going to send to Sue, that may change. It could be that, in 6 months, they shuffle some of the towns around to other provider agencies, or distribute them, they give, they do that within some of the counties. So yeah, because they break them up a little weird. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's Massachusetts. Thank you, Narissa, for sending that information in the
Put it
chat.
in the chat. Yeah, that information is also in the application.
Correct.
Okay.
and if you go to mass.gov and in the search bar, put home modification loan program, that will also take you to this in case, sometimes on my computer, I can lose track of documents. I'm sure that doesn't happen to anyone else, but it has happened to me.
So the income guidelines you showed us are from 2017. Are they the same?
So the what I didn't get to change, and that was my mistake, is the year. The incomes were correct. The year was wrong. It should say
Okay.
2021.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Naris just put them in the chat. So
Okay.
it's the same. I just messed up. Didn't, yeah.
Okay. No,
change
no,
that.
that's, just want to make sure.
Not a problem.
This is just an amazing resource that we should really be spreading the word about. Not sure if you want that, but
Absolutely, spread it around. You know, it's a program. It doesn't work for everyone, but it does work for some individuals. You know, it's 50,000, 0%, right, interest. You know, and it's hard when a homeowner goes to their bank, takes out an equity loan or a home line of equity to do modifications of these nature, and then they have an interest and they have a monthly payment.
yeah, no, this
And
is
this-
really great.
And the repayment doesn't have to happen until you sell your home or, right?
Transfer.
Correct. So, you sell the home or you transfer the title, because once you transfer the title, you're no longer the homeowner. And sometimes we can advocate for an assumption, you know, for, you know, if it's a family member who's taken over, but that's never guaranteed.
Mhm.
A question about the umbrella organization at the state level, that was you mentioned them early on, but it was an acronym that,
It's
MRC.
thank you, Larry.
but also CDAC.
CDAC, so CDAC, so MRC is the funder. They funnel it down to CDAC, and we are the provider agency within the region to administer it.
So Mass Rehab Commission for the
Correct.
person who was asking the question, who might not know, you know, the letter speak.
They were also asking if it was federally funded, and some of those state agencies of that magnitude, like Medicaid, are kind of a federal state partnership, but it really is managed by the state. So they may have some dollars coming from the federal government, but a lot of it's coming from the state government. It's usually a partnership, and it's usually managed by the state.
Correct.
And it-
Mary, can I invite you to some other presentations I have coming up?
I've danced in this world a little bit, but no, I appreciate it. It's a great program. I'm really glad you got to share it. It reminds me of, you know, like people who had no idea there was veterans money to help them in assisted living. And, you know, there's a bureaucracy. It's pretty thick. You got to dance the dance to get to it. But
Yeah.
the money's real and it's significant and it's very helpful if you can figure out how to work through the bureaucracy. So it's people like yourselves who can help the layperson kind of follow the dotted line and, you know, get to Oz.
The other question is this funded annually by the federal and state government through the budgeting process? I guess maybe what they're driving at is, you know, how secure is this funding for a year from now or 2 years from now?
That's something nobody can ever answer. You know, it's here, but you never know what can happen tomorrow. You know, it's one of those things.
It's been stable for a number of
It's been
years.
stable, correct. It's been stable, but I don't ever want to, you know, guarantee, to anyone.
It's smart money because Medicare and Medicaid wind up footing the bill if those of us who can't stay in our home anymore wind up in a skilled nursing facility. That winds up being, you know, government funded for
For most.
For most, correct.
for almost all.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I have a question in terms of the homeowner overseeing the whole process. If you have somebody who's a homeowner who's really kind of struggling to organize themselves, is there a place or a resource that you recommend for them to have somebody to assist them on that if they don't have a family member who can help them?
So we can assist them with the application process. You know, if they gave us an authorization to release information to their doctor, we can ask the doctor for that professional form. But the contractor, unfortunately, they have to hire them.
Yeah,
And they can always, you know, check in with the provider agency and say, hey, this is the invoice I received. Can we match it up to the bid to ensure that what's being paid is accurate and is for the work being done? We will support them there.
yeah.
But essentially, I guess what I'm inferring you're asking, Liz, is the homeowner has to end up being the general contractor, essentially,
Yeah,
is overseeing the contract, and that's can be a
Well,
really
the-
complicated.
The homeowner can hire a general contractor. So
Yes.
they can, you know, they can absolutely
No,
higher.
that's what I'm understanding. What I'm saying, what my question is, and Sharon, I think you're right, is kind of, it can be a big job for somebody to oversee the work of the contractor.
It can, it is, and it could be a challenge, but,
Yeah.
you know,
And for people who are physically or mentally frail, that can be an enormous challenge and they're going to need external support. So,
So the challenge maybe is for people to apply when it's a little bit easier for them to do it, but they still have an identified need.
or an identified contractor.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, because the need is identified with the professional form.
yes.
But it's that, yeah, that contractor piece is where it's more challenging because, you know, contractors are, they're hard to find, especially depending on the season, right?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
it's winter, it's a little quieter, and then, you know, once spring and summer are here, they're booked and they're busy. So that is the challenge.
Do you find contractors like working on these projects?
I think there's a mixture. There's some
Uh-huh.
contractors that like it because it's secured money. They know that
Right,
they're gonna be paid. The money is there.
yeah,
There's contractors that don't like to write out an estimate, and it's unfair because if you don't have something in writing, how do you assure that this contractor is doing what they're saying? You know,
Yeah.
to end up in a dispute when it's like, well, he or she said they were gonna do this, and they're like, nope, it's not in writing. I'm not doing it.
right.
Yeah.
I had a question. One, it has to do with the lead time for payments. This is an issue with contractors. Well, once a payment gets approved, let's say it's approved, what is the lead time before the check is issued?
It could, you know, it's a little bit of a lag right now because we're all working from home and I can't cut checks from home. So, you know, prior to the pandemic, it could be a few days. Now I would say it could be a week because, like I said, having to get it approved, having to receive it, get it approved, because I can't just approve them. There has to be a second set of eyes to make sure the amount going out is accurate. And so it could take a week.
Yeah, then no, that's fine. I've worked with some programs where it's 30 days.
Oh, no.
Huge issue for
No.
contractors.
No.
And as a second part of that, I was wondering what happens, do you have some kind of way of mediating disputes if the contractor doesn't agree?
No, that's why unfortunately we don't. We can give them resources, you know, to submit a complaint in the HIC, but we have no ways to get in between that dispute.
So the third part then of my question would be, who do you have on staff that is supervising these jobs and okaying payments? Are they experts in construction? Because you
So
have
we
to-
have the construction monitor who just goes out that first time and they go out at the end of the project. So the middle project is why homeowners have to really assure that what's stated in the payment schedule in the invoice does match up. That if in the payment schedule, they said for payment 2, they were going to install flooring, then that payment that we're receiving is for flooring. So you don't, you know, if in payment 2, they said flooring, and then the third invoice is flooring, it's like, well, that other invoice was for flooring, what's going on here? So that's when, you know, we will question that. We, you know, those are the things we have to question is what we're receiving, and making sure, you know, we do call the homeowner and say, hey, you know, you submitted an invoice. Did they do X, Y, and Z to make sure that we can pay that next payment? And then prior to releasing full funds, the construction monitor goes back out, does, you know, he does an inspection to assure that the work per the bid is completed. And then we'll also receive permits, sign off permits from the municipalities.
Thank you.
Araceli, is the general contractor's fee allowable to be included under the loan?
Yes. Even attorney's fees can be included if you want an attorney to review the documents before you sign them, before you sign anything, that could be included as well. It's part of the loan, so it's your loan. Yeah, it's part of your loan.
Thank you.
Because the, you know, the loan documents you receive, it's a loan commitment, the mortgage, a promissory note, truth in lending disclosure. So, you know, if you wanted to have someone review that, that could be included.
Sharon had a question.
I do. Going to dispute resolution, I run a community mediation program. And I know that a fair number of disputes that come before us have to do with these kinds of matters. And I really have to apologize. I had to step away when you went through the dispute resolution piece. So is there a mechanism for people going to use, say, a community mediation program to resolve a dispute, or would they have to like file in small claims court, or what? Could you repeat that?
They would, you know, we would hope that the dispute could be handled between homeowner and contractor, but if it's not, the homeowner would have to file a complaint against with the home improvement contractor's license. Yeah, so they would have to, and that's why we can't stress enough to a homeowner not to pay them ahead of time, not to sign anything without having the work done. And I'll be honest with you, there's sometimes contractors who don't like me because I tell them this wasn't done. I'm not paying that because we want to assure that it's done.
Well, that's great that you're sort of an intermediary there to kind of make sure that things follow the way they should, because
We understand that it can be overwhelming for a homeowner. It's overwhelming for me to have work on my home done. So it is, but you know, that middle piece, we just can't get in between the dispute, but we can help the homeowner understand what their options are, what they can do.
Another question here is the median income calculated at the state or county level? For these household income guidelines, those come from Hampshire County, or are those?
Those are, so the incomes, they're set at like state CDAC, sets the income level. They're 200 of the area median income. So they are set higher than like the HUD federal median income.
Okay.
And you're basing it off the adjusted gross income of a tax return? Yeah, okay.
Correct. My Roxy came in and she's making all this noise. I'm sorry, had to mute her. Our furry little friends are our work companions sometimes.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Phyllis.
Phyllis, you have a question?
I just wanted to say that I was a participant of this program. I had my job completed 3 years ago. And if I had one single word of advice to someone taking it on, I would say, find yourself a contractor who's familiar with the program, because I had none of this pressure that you're talking about of being the sole overseer of all this work, because they took care of it. They knew what was required. They knew when the next check would be coming. They were so familiar with it that it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I recommend it highly. And I think somehow the information should get out there so that more people know about it.
Thank you, Phyllis. And, you know, thank you for mentioning that. There's, you know, the scary thing is if there's a dispute, but we always go into it with, there's not going to be a dispute because you're going to follow the guidelines and the rules. And when that happens, it runs smoothly for both, for homeowner and contractor. And, you know, what I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe, or 4 years ago, we had like a info session for contractors to help them understand the process, where the money was coming from, the procedures, and that seemed to work. So hopefully we can do that again to kind of facilitate some of that ease amongst contractors too.
To Phyllis's point, and maybe, you know, maybe it's one of the final questions, but you referenced having a list of vendors that exist in some site somewhere, but do you have a list of vendors that have done work for you?
We don't keep a list. We refer to the state's licensed contractors. We've had a
That,
list.
that's everybody, right?
Yeah, we've had a list. I'll be honest, we've had a list before and it just didn't work.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It,
Right.
it didn't work. Because, I'll be honest with you, you provide a list, let's say of 10 people. Let's say, those 10 people get utilized and then all of a sudden 2 homeowners are unsatisfied, then it's, it becomes a finger pointing. Well, they're on your list, they're approved, they're not approved, these are licensed. And you choose from this list, or you choose from any list. It's like when you're shopping for a home, you have the loan disclosures from the bank and it says fees you shop for, fees you didn't. It gets complicated when.
Well, and we have the luxury of being, a member run nonprofit where we also have lists of professional service providers that have been recommended by our members. And, I will hope that we do some outreach to our members to say, if there's a contractor that you've really had a good experience with, let us know so that we can steer our people toward the folks that have been easy to work with.
Yeah, and that's good to know because we could, we could tell a homeowner, well, Amherst Neighbors may be able to assist. Sometimes we refer like to Stavros or to some other organizations that may have lists of contractors or contractors.
I'm curious as to where you interact with an organization like Stavros. I know, one of my kids was dating a guy who they would get an order to get a ramp to somebody's house who was being discharged from the hospital, and they would go and build a ramp that day, and the next day that person could come home. But Stavros eligibility is also quite restricted for many things.
It is, and funding is almost like first come, first serve. So we do usually, like for someone who is looking just for a ramp, that sometimes that's an avenue, like, hey, because I'll be honest with you, I would prefer something free than a loan. So sometimes we do tell individuals, hey, Stavros has funding available for ramps, or this agency does. And if that doesn't work, you can absolutely come back and apply with us. But I think free is better than sometimes, not always. But yeah, if you can, yeah.
Yeah, terrific. Well, any more questions, anybody? Don't be shy. This is your big chance. The only silly question is the one you don't ask. Well,
I went ahead, I just wanted to mention that when I did my project, I went ahead and added something kind of towards the end of it. I had some front steps which had no railings. And so I suggested it was Pioneer Valley at that time, covering Amherst. And so I asked them if there was any possibility of covering that as well. And they said, of course, yes, you need a railing on your steps. So
And-
they added that.
Yeah, and one of the reasons also the construction monitor goes out is because sometimes there might be something a homeowner doesn't think of that they're gonna need in the long run. So sometimes, the construction monitor can say, hey, you're getting an accessible bathroom. Did you think of your front steps? Did you think of a ramp? Did you think of some other of these other things? So it's almost like a second set of eyes for the homeowner as well.
Well,
Yeah.
and also while you're under construction, I never come in and out of my front door. I come in and out of my side door, which has a railing. But if that part of my house is under construction, I'm going to need a railing at the front, So, there are times when you're going to need something even as an accommodation while you're using your house in a way that's different than how you've used it before. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes sense.
Well, thank you.
This is
Yes.
Tori, and I just wanted to say that I'm excited to hear that Amherst now qualifies. I called a few years ago and I was told that I wouldn't be able to get a second loan because Amherst did not qualify for whatever reason, but now we do.
Yeah, so I think it was maybe a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, we received Amherst, but prior to that, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission was the provider agency for Amherst. It wasn't Wayfinders, but Wayfinders is now.
Right, but I don't know, it had something to do with redevelopment or something. Amherst wasn't eligible for that or something, but anyway, I'm very excited because we have some work that we need done as we age in our home, because we originally had this done like 20 years ago when the program first started. So and the threshold was much lower. I think it was 35,000 was the maximum. So
I think 5 years ago, the maximum was 30,000. You're correct. About right after that, it did increase to 50,000.
yeah, so we're eligible for either 15 or 20 then. So, which is a relief because we need what we need done so that we're safe in our home. We want to stay here. So,
Well, and we want to
Excellent.
keep people in our community. Yeah,
Yep.
that's so. Well, Araceli and Amneris, thank you so much for taking the time to educate us. And I will send out the slides and the other documents and the stuff that's in the chat to everybody tomorrow after I get the updated version from Araceli, who's very organized, much more so than I, but I promise I'll get it out tomorrow morning.
And I can see,
Thank you.
thank you all. Thank you again for having us join.
Yes, thank
You all have a great night.
Thank you very much.
And
Bye.
thank you to everyone who came.
Have a good one. Bye.
Make
Bye-bye.
our community stronger.